This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hi, thanks for listening. This is Moments of Clarity. My name is Tiffany Werner. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk about some sensitive matters that we can probably all relate to in some way about bullying and how self-esteem and social skills come a long way and really formative in our early childhood years. And it can be affected the way that we're treated by our peers and by our family and everything. And it can be especially challenging if there's a deficit in social skills because of something such as autism or ADHD or anxiety or depression early on in childhood, or mental health issues. And if they're not understood and someone's being affected by that, it could be really detrimental to their well-being and how they evolve and form into adulthood. And my guest today was diagnosed with autism about 5 years ago. He's an adult now, but he's working on a second master's degree, and I'm very proud of him. He's a friend of mine. He's been on the show before, and he's been very transparent and brave and courageous to talk about what it's been like, not only knowing that he was coping with symptoms of autism, but how he got through life with the struggling. As most of you might know, people that struggle with Asperger's, autism, if you've ever seen The Big Bang Theory, for instance, the character Sheldon has Asperger's, or portrays probably a few disorders and symptoms of mental health stuff, but one of them is supposedly Asperger's. So if you've ever seen something like that, you know how he struggles with sarcasm and humor and things like that. And luckily he has friends that are supportive. And so anyway, I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Patrick McGurk.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Good. I got to correct you on something real quick. So I was just talking to one of my autistic friends yesterday, and she told me that the community, I'm not as big in the community as I want to be yet, but she told me that the community likes identity first language rather than person first language. So they like to say autistic people instead of people with autism, but I figured, because I told her to listen, and I told her I'd bring that up because I just thought I would. But yeah, thanks for building me up.
Anyway, yeah. Well, welcome to the show.
Thanks for building up in your intro. You make me sound more impressive than I really am.
No, I just tell it how it is. Wait. Anyway, so let's start with the beginning, though, Patrick, and so start in the beginning. I know that you want to talk about some symptoms and some instances that happened early in childhood for you.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell a little story about when I first found out just how unpopular and hated I was by my peers and my teachers, because I was an undiagnosed autistic kid. And the thing about undiagnosed autistic kids is we don't really have the self-awareness that others have about our actions, about our behaviors, about how we come across to others. It can be sort of like we're blind to how other people perceive us. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that comes with it. And so I'll start. I live about a half mile away from my old elementary school, and when I was in fifth grade, I had a teacher, and my teacher wasn't. Well, I'll just tell you what she did, and you can judge for yourself what kind of person she is. So, when I was a kid, I loved to talk. I never stopped talking, just like I'm doing right now.
It's your job to talk right now. Please be talkative. Dead air is the worst enemy for a radio show.
Yeah. That's why I'm good at radio. So I have the face for radio. So it was towards the end of the school year one day, and I was really excited because it was a weekend, and I was not done talking when she told everybody to be quiet. And so she had everybody. She said, "Okay, Patrick, I'm done with you." And she had everybody put their desks to the perimeter of the room, and had me put my desk in the middle of the room and had me sit under it. And when the other kids started laughing, I tried to get out, and she screamed at me at the top of her lungs, "Don't you get out, you sit there." And so I cowered, and I sat under there, and she said to the other kids, "It's okay to laugh." And so the other kids started laughing, and when I got home, I was beside myself, and I told my dad, and my dad went up to the school to draw blood. He went up to the school to take some people's heads off.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher said to him, "No, I didn't make him sit under a table. I made him sit in the chair in the corner next to a table." And the principal believed her. So the principal said, "Well, it's our word against his or against hers." So really, nothing was done. And this is also the woman who said she was making a joke in class, and she goes, "You know how every parent thinks their child's beautiful," and then she said under her breath, like Patrick, and some of the little girls there laughed, and I was the only boy in the room at the time, so the little girls laughed, and that was the start of me having sort of body image issues. And so a few years ago, I was driving past the school, and it said "Congratulations," and it had her name, and it said "Teacher of the Year." So she won Teacher of the Year a few years ago after this incident. And so, that was just 5th grade, and middle school was terrible.
So you're getting bullied, and I'm expecting you to talk about your peers and your friends and stuff, and it's a teacher that made you have
it was
bad
a lot
memories.
of teachers.
And unfortunately, not every teacher is good at their job or likes their job for that matter.
No, exactly. And this teacher, she did this to me, and I still remember what my stomach felt like. I felt like I was going to throw up. And I still remember how my head felt. I felt dizzy. It was a legitimate trauma reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I was unable to really cope. In my little 12-year-old mind, a kid isn't going to go, "Well, that teacher's screwed up in the head or messed up, or there's something wrong with her."
Mm-hmm.
A 12-year-old isn't going to think that. A 12-year-old is going to internalize that and think that there's something wrong with them. And that's exactly what I did. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was the weird one. So
there's some teachers that I've come across with my kids too that are I've had to go storming into the school, kind of like your dad, where they don't catch the ball and someone calls them a baby, something like that. That still happens, I think. That still happens, and it's not healthy for anyone, but especially if you're having trouble understanding what they're talking about, And
when you have trouble seeing, with perspective, every 12-year-old to a point has trouble with perspective, but when you're autistic, it can be hard.
Right.
And I got another story for you. So when I was in high school, I was on an antidepressant, and I probably should not have been on an antidepressant because I'm bipolar, and bipolar disorder starts usually in your early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little bit hypomanic and a little bit loud, and what I could have used were some interventions, some social skills interventions, some friendship groups, some social skills group. My first master's is in educational psychology, so I kind of know about IEPs and social skills and that sort of deal. And I had a principal who every day I would talk too much in class or say the wrong thing, or I would make a joke that I thought was funny that maybe was inappropriate, but how was I supposed to know? I was a kid. And this principal gave me basically at least one detention a week for a few weeks. I got out of school suspension. I got out of school suspension for sexual harassment because I told a kid to go do something to himself when these kids are throwing around these words like it's nothing. But I get in trouble because I'm the loud one, and they thought it was funny. He and his buddy thought it was funny to tell on me, and then come to find out, one of my teachers shook his hand for getting me kicked out of class, and that's kind of how I related to Lafayette High School.
Wow.
And I just said the name. Oops. But anyway, I would get suspensions, I would get detentions, all because I didn't really know how to be quiet. I didn't know how to be soft. I didn't know how to be diplomatic. I just said what I thought in the moment, and I didn't really think about who was there. And then,
but that's part of like what autism stuff, that the lack of social skills, or
there's a lot of autism with that. That's a lot of autism,
right?
And but see, the thing is, I was so low needs. We don't say high functioning and low functioning anymore. We say high and low needs.
Right.
My needs were mainly social and emotional. My needs were not physical. But when your needs are only social and emotional, it's easy to fly under the radar and fall through the cracks because it's
comes
not
across
as
as behavioral. It could probably come across as behavioral rather than mental health.
Behavioral, yeah. And so this principal asked me, Patrick, are you thinking about going to college? And I said, and this was after I felt like I didn't want to go to school anymore. And I said no. And I just made up some excuse. I said, I don't want to pay for it. It's too much money. And he goes, well, that's probably for the best. And I was like, what? Like, I was upset that he said that, but in the back of my mind, I agreed with him because my self-esteem was shot at that point. So I spent 2 years after high school working at a video store with a sociopathic boss. And then I finally went to college, and it took me 5 years to get through a 4-year degree because I had to take some high school level classes because I didn't pass those classes. It took me 5 years to get through high school too. I dropped out of high school my junior year because I didn't want to go anymore.
Hey Patrick, there's I worked in a video store too, and there's probably people listening going, "What's a video store?"
Oh yeah, it was Hollywood Video. It was Blockbuster's biggest competitor.
Wait, which one did you work at?
Hollywood Video.
So did I. I worked at one in college in Gainesville. It's pretty funny.
My boss would say like he wanted to do things to certain female customers, and when I didn't partake in the laughter, he'd tell me I was going to war with him, and he threatened to mess me up. So that's the kind of bosses I had after high school.
I didn't have that kind of boss, but I just think it's funny that someone knows what Hollywood Video is. But I want to see a little bit about how all of this has affected you in adulthood and with your social skills and self-esteem. But first, let's just take a break, and we'll be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.
You're listening to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner. We welcome your input at 866-826-1340. Tiffany will be right back after this.